Hi everybody, welcome to Dandelion Cottage and Watercolor Wednesday. I'm Leslie Watkins. I hope you're all well. I went outside to see if the Christmas roses were blooming yet, and they are not, so I'm not going to be able to paint what I intended to paint with you today. Maybe they'll be ready next week in time for Christmas. So I thought what I would do is to share with you the kits that I have available when you sign up for my Watercolor Card Club. And the Watercolor Card Club is a monthly subscription. Each month you get a video tutorial that shows you how to paint a different natural subject, usually something that I find here in the gardens at Dandelion Cottage. And it includes a Facebook group where you can access the videos, find material lists, and post your paintings to share with the other people in the group. And it also has a monthly Zoom meeting where you can share the picture that you did from the following or the previous month for a constructive critique. And that I think is the best way that you can learn and really accelerate your progress. So when you join, you also have the option to get some materials. And I have two kits that I create. One is for the watercolor painters, and one is for the ink painters. And the inks are the water-based inks that are typically used in paper crafting. So I'm just going to grab a package of the inks so that you can see what I'm talking about. So basically, the inks come in these little bottles, and you get a set of 3 inks, red, yellow, and blue. And you get a mini palette that has these little wells so that you can put your inks, a couple of drops in each of these wells, and keep them separate from one another because the inks are really running. You also get a spritzer and a collection of water painters, and the water painters are paintbrushes that have a reservoir in the handle. So I have one that already has water in it here. So you can see that the water is in the handle, and this is great when you just want to grab a brush real quick and do a little painting. They're also really handy if you're outside and you don't want to bring a container of water and cups and all that kind of thing. This makes it very easy to get started painting quickly. And you also get a case, and this will fit your palette, and that way it'll keep the dust from getting inside the wells, and it also prevent any accidents if you knock your palette. You get a full pack of the Fluid 100 watercolor paper. This is a 140-pound paper. It's cold pressed, meaning that it has a kind of a textured surface on it. Let me see if I can give you a close-up of that. So here's a little piece of the watercolor paper, and I think if I bend it a little bit, you can start to see that it has a little bit of texture. It's not for a very smooth surface, you'd want to use the hot press, which I also use sometimes. But the cold press is also very nice for when you want to get special techniques like a dry brush texture, something like that. And because this is 140-pound paper, it's very stiff and is very useful when you're doing your paper crafting projects. And you get a piece of plexiglass to put your painting on so that you can paint wet and wet. So that is the painting with ink kit. Okay, so you get all of this. Now, the way the watercolor kit differs is the watercolor kit comes with a mini palette that has two little mixing areas, and there are just 6 wells here. And what I do is I put a little bit of paint, professional quality tubed watercolor paint, to get you started in red, yellow, and blue. Really good quality paint with the colors that I highly recommend that you use to follow along with my video tutorials. And this little palette also fits perfectly inside your case. And you can also use the case as a mixing area for both the inks and the watercolor. And again, you get your paper, your plexi spritzer. You also get a watercolor brush, and these change from time to time. Usually, it's a size 6, which is a nice size for working on very small pictures. If you were working on something larger, I would recommend a larger brush, but this will get you started. And you also get a little kneaded eraser, which you'll see me use when I do my paintings. So if you're interested in getting started painting with either watercolor or water-based inks, I think this is a terrific way to get started and see if you like it. And then if you do like it, of course, you can always add on more colors and more materials as you go along. So for today, I thought I would just do a really quick little demonstration of how to use the watercolors in some very basic techniques. So here's my watercolor palette, and I'm using just yellow, red, and blue. I've got my brush here, and I'm going to grab a piece of the Fluid 100 watercolor paper. And off to the side, I've got a couple of containers of water. And these are just the pint-sized deli containers. You can use whatever you happen to have on hand. I like something that has a wide mouth and is shallow. And I also have a damp kitchen sponge here, and this has never been used in the kitchen. It's a clean sponge, but it's been well used while I'm painting. And I just have a paper towel handy in case I need that. So what I would recommend that you do to practice is grab your spritzer and just gently spritz your paper. Now the watercolor paper is very absorbent and has been designed to hold plenty of water. So don't be afraid to get your paper wet. And depending on what your situation is, whether you are in a hot, dry climate or a cold, damp climate, is going to affect the rate at which your paper dries. So that's something that you'll get used to over time. And of course, that will change every day with the weather. I'm painting in a New England studio here with a wood burning stove. So I have a kind of a faster drying environment today. During the summer, when it's a rainy day, it's going to be just the opposite. So I'm just mixing up some of my colors, and I'm not bothering to clean off my palette because I can use all of the previous mixtures to help tone down my colors. So I think what I'll do is I'll just do a quick little picture of a landscape. So I'm going to start with some blue. And obviously this is grayed down, it's not a pure blue. And I see I've got some people joining me today. Hi, Sandra. This is grayed down. Hi, Kelly. Hi, Becky. Nice to see you out there. I hope you're all having a nice day so far. So this is just a simple wash. Very wet. And I'm going to use some of my yellow and my red, a drop of blue, to get a kind of an ochre color that I can use in the foreground. Like so. Where I live in Connecticut, we usually have snow this time of year, but right now the temperature is, I think, in the around 40 degrees, so there's no snow in sight, but there's lots of beautiful brown kind of leaves and weeds. And if I want to put in a mountain, I can take a kind of a violet tone, kind of a blue violet, and I can just put that in to the distance. Something like that. And I can add a little bit of color in the sky. Warm that up a little bit. And let's put in some trees. Now it's probably going to be a little too wet right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove some of the excess water. And I can just indicate some areas where I may want to have a tree line, and while it's still wet and wet, I can get these beautiful soft blurry edges. Now as things come closer in the foreground, they also appear darker. And if you're interested in learning more about the principles of painting, I have a mini course, and where I go into much more detail about color mixing, values, atmospheric perspective, and much more. And if you'd like to get one of these kits, if you'd like to learn more about the watercolor course and my watercolor card club, please go to dandelioncottagedesign.com and subscribe to notes, and I will send you an email with information about all of those things that I have that you may be interested in. And if you look at the post that I put up just before I went live today, it's a bright purple post on my Facebook page. You'll also find a link that will take you right there so that you can access the mailing list very quickly. Okay, so I'm going to let this dry a little bit, and then once it's dry, I'll be able to come back in and I'll be able to get some harder edges on my lines. So for instance, for the tree branches, some little details in the foreground. Trunks. All right, but I think you can begin to see something happening here. And when the painting is dry enough that will allow me to put in these extra details, I will post that picture along with this video. So that's a quick way that you can get started doing a very simple landscape. And I hope that you'll give it a try. Again, to learn more, please go to dandelioncottagedesign.com and subscribe to notes, and I will send you information about how you can get a watercolor or a water-based ink kit to help you get started, and also how you can join the watercolor card club and learn to paint a new subject each month. There'll also be a link for the beginning watercolor course that you can watch at your own leisure and follow along. And there's a lot more information about the live Zooms and the Facebook group and all sorts of other things. So thank you so much for watching today. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you next time.